Right, well, I'm back again with part 2 of the bugs video. As I say, I didn't want it to go on too long. Now I'm going to have a look at the next lot of creatures in the series. Now incidentally, I didn't mention it before, but these bugs actually came in very interesting boxes. And I keep them in the boxes to keep them tidy. Now this box actually contains a box like this, and they're very good. A nice little plastic box to keep all the bugs in, and those are very useful. So it's a very good set, and as I say, I'm very pleased with it, except I haven't got all the names. Now obviously there's going to be a lot that I haven't got the names of, which is a bit of a pity. I've actually got more that I don't know the names of than I thought. So I've put this up to 35 now, so we'll carry on a little bit longer, and we'll have a look at more of these bugs. Now this one is the next one on the series is an Asian forest scorpion. Now scorpions are really strange creatures. I mean, they've got these huge claws at the front for grabbing their insect relations, and they eat them. So they've got huge claws on the front, and this is a monster. This is a really big one. So in Asia, these must be a really scary thing to have, because they've always, obviously at the side there, you can see he's got a really big sting at the end. But we know what that one is, because it's an Asian forest scorpion, and that's that one. Now these two smaller scorpions, but I've no doubt not as deadly as the other one, are these ones. Now this one again is one that hasn't got a name, and I don't know what it is. So if you recognize this particular scorpion and know where it comes from, write it on the comments and tell me what kind of a scorpion you think that is and where it comes from, so that I can look it up. Now on my list, this one's going to be number 14. So if you know what number 14 is, just drop me a line and tell me what that scorpion is. Now then, the next scorpion, incidentally, scorpions, very interesting, because when you go out at night and you're looking for scorpions and you take one of these, what they call a blue light or a black light, ultraviolet light, these scorpions fluoresce and they look green. And so you can go out and find these green fluorescent scorpions scurrying about in the woods, and which is just as well, because if you've got a, if you're out there and you get stung by one, it's a good way of finding, because this one, very small one, and it's almost transparent. I mean, it's a really tiny, thin looking creature, very thin legs, but it's almost transparent. So you could easily miss that one in the woods. But I'm sure that sting on the end there is pretty potent. So if you recognize that scorpion and you know where it is or what it is, let me know so that I can look it up. So that's the scorpions. Now, let's put those there, and I'll bring 4 more over. Now these are sort of, these are caterpillars, and this is, millipedes. This one's a Canadian millipede. Now again, I don't know quite what kind of millipede it is, whether there's different kinds of millipedes, and whether millipedes grow into anything else, they transform into a moth or something. I don't think they do, because it's not a larvae. I think it's a millipede. So that's a Canadian millipede, so I've got a name on that one. But this one, which is rather strange, it's not a terribly good specimen, this one, and it's a strange little bug, and I've got no idea what it is, because there's no name on it, and it's probably very difficult, unless you're an expert, to identify what kind of a creature that is. But if you're able to identify what kind of a little bug or a larvae or a nymph or whatever it calls it for that one, and it's number 16. Put in a number 16 on that one. And we're going to 2 more. These look more like millipedes to me. I don't know, this has certainly got a lot of legs. There's an awful lot of legs underneath there. And it really is a strange creature. It looks like a worm. I mean, they've curled it round so that it can get inside this little package. But it really is quite a large insect, and I think if you were digging in the garden and that popped out, you'd be rather surprised. But again, unfortunately, there's no name on it. So if you can identify it for me, I really would appreciate it. And that one is number 17. So I'll stick that on there. Now the next one is very similar to that old one I showed you. I don't think I've shown you this one. No, I haven't shown you this one. But if I have, I'm sorry. But this one is a very large centipede. It's got long legs and an awful lot of them. And a head there. And it's very thin sort of creature. And a very large head on the end there. Now, unfortunately, again, I've got no name on it. So I don't know what it is or where it comes from. But it's very interesting. And it's some sort of millipede, I suppose. But exactly what one, I don't know. So that's that one, and he's number 18. I hope I'm putting these in the right place. Now I've got another one here. And I've got a few with names on, thank goodness. Now this one, we're getting more onto the beetles. This one is a long-nosed jungle beetle from Asia. And he's got a really long nose. He has got a long nose. But he's very colourful. He's got very long front legs. And that's very interesting. I mean, he's a huge thing. I mean, again, if you found one of these in your pantry or in your house, you would really worry. So that's that one. Now this one is a false long-horned beetle from southern Asia. Now again, this is a very long horns on the front of this beetle. He's got some vicious looking antlers almost at the front here. And he looks very ferocious. Whether he can bite, I don't know. But he's certainly a very big, and obviously he's got wings there, and so he could fly. But I've got a name of that one, so I know what that one is. And this one is a deep mountain longhorn beetle from Asia. Deep mountain longhorn beetle. So that's that one. And he's got some really long antennae sticking out the front there. And again, he's a really lovely, a lovely bug. Really lovely, these bugs are. Now this one, I'm not sure what this is. Oh dear. This one hasn't got a name, unfortunately, but this might be more recognisable. People might know what this is. I mean, it looks a bit like a scorpion. Now, it's got a really long tail. Now, it doesn't look like a sting, like a scorpion sting, but it's certainly got a very long tail on it. And it's got clippers on the front there, a bit like a crab. So I've no idea what this is. Very strange. It's black, very flat. It's got that iridescence on it, which I think is caused by the actual manufacture of this plastic. I think that's air trapped inside, as I've mentioned before. And I don't know, you might be able to identify what that creature is. And if you can, let me know. I keep repeating this, but I am desperate to find out. Now that's that one. Little creature. And let me know if you understand it. Now this one might be a stag beetle. Now again, it hasn't got a name on it. But I would call these stag beetles. Now, and again, I've no idea what its name is, its real name. It's got a long protrudience on the front there. Looks like antlers. But it's a really big black beetle. And it may well be some kind of stag beetle. But we're calling him number 20. And if you can identify him for me, I'd really appreciate it. Now, I'll put those away to make room for more. Now, I hope you don't really think I'm hurrying here, but I want to try and get it in on at least 2 videos, and we've already gone 9 minutes. So we're on to the next little batch of beetles. Now, these are ones I call more bugs and beetles. Now, this one is a Russian longhorn beetle from Russia, and it's quite an interesting one. He's quite tiny, considering horn beetles usually are quite big. This is quite a tiny one, but at least I've got the name of him and I can find out. This next one, this one is an African jeweled beetle from Africa. A jeweled beetle. Now, I don't know why they call this a jeweled beetle. Maybe when its wings open it's more pretty, but to me that is not very jeweled. I mean, it's called a jewel beetle, but maybe it looks like a jewel to some people, but to me it's a bit dark. I mean, maybe when it opens its wings it looks prettier, but I don't know. Now this one's got no name. It's a very strange one. You might be able to recognize it. It's brown brown one, and it looks a little bit furry. I don't know whether it is furry, but it looks a little bit furry. And it's got a long snout coming out the front, which is quite interesting. Now, he hasn't got a name on him again, so he now comes in at number 21. So number 21, if you recognize him, let me know. Now, this one is a shield beetle. Now, we get a lot of shield beetles in England here, but they're usually green and they live on bushes and things. But this one is rather pretty. He's orange. He's rather beautiful. A beautiful orange little shell beetle there. And this is found worldwide, but I've never found one in England, so I don't know how they can say they're worldwide. But maybe some places in England have these beetles, which I've never seen. But that doesn't mean to say they don't exist. Now, this one is a Formosa stag beetle from Taiwan. Now, why they call it a Formosa stag beetle, and it comes from Taiwan. Now, that's interesting. Now, he's got long horns like you expect to have on a stag beetle. He's got long pincers at the front there, and he's a very beautiful beetle, and quite nice to find one of them in your garden, I suppose. But again, I have got a name for him, so that's good. Now, this next one, this is a very strange looking one, and again, it hasn't got a name, which is a bit of a nuisance. Now, whether you're going to be able to recognize this one, he's sort of medium-sized beetle with long, but the interesting about this one, he's got black and white stripes, as you might call them, on his antennae, alternating black and white stripes, and he's also got black and white on his body, and there's a few other colors, I think, but mainly black and white. And so if you recognize him, I'll put a number on him, and he's number 22. So that's number 22, and we've got two more in this particular batch of bugs. Now, this one obviously is some kind of stag beetle, I suppose, but I've no idea where it's from or what it's actually called. I should imagine it is a stag beetle, but it's where it's actually from, there's no name on it. So it's a bit of a puzzle. So if you recognize that particular stag beetle and you know where he's from, I'm trying to turn him round so you can recognize all the different parts of him, but I don't know where his name is. He's now on the list as number 23. Now, this one, again, there's no name on him, but he's rather pretty. He's got a very beautiful red, glistening sort of surface to his body. I mean, it's I suppose you would call it red, but when you tip it in the light, you can see that they're all different colors, like oil. He's got an oily effect on his body, and I don't know how good this light is. I'm trying to make this light as good as possible to shine onto these creatures and show up their beautiful colors. So some of them are really beautiful colors, and this one has got iridescence on him, a bit like the power shell that you find. It's all oily and colored. And if you recognize that one, he's number 24. Right, we're steaming along now, and that's another pile of beetles. So we'll bring in the next pile of beetles. Now, this one fortunately has got a name, but he's very beautiful, was. This is an oriental flower beetle from Asia, and look how beautiful that is. I mean, if you got these in your garden and they were on your plants, even if they were eating the plants, I don't think you'd be able to get rid of them, put insecticide on and get rid of these beetles, because I think they're really beautiful, and it seems such a shame to kill them, because I don't suppose they have a very long life. They're probably eaten by some other creature, and so they don't live very long. So, but they're very beautiful. Now, this one, and I'll compare it to that one, this one has got sort of black and white stripes across his body. Now, this one is a very similar thing. He's green again, which is as you might expect, but he hasn't got any stripes across his body, but he's got black edging to his body. But again, a very beautiful beetle, but he's got no name, so we must have a number put on him. So that's 25 I've got now without names, and I really am disappointed that I've got all these ones with no names. Now, this one is a tiny little beetle, and I'm trying to look to see. He's got various colours on his back. His back has got greens and blues and blacks, but he's quite an interesting little bug. Now, again, I've no idea where he comes from or where he is, but if you can recognise, he's got rather big feet, and he must crawl up things. He's got very big feet on there. It looks like he's wearing big boots. Now he's a very interesting looking bug, but I've no idea where he comes from and what he is. So I'll put him down there as number 26 and hope that somebody recognises him. Now here's another one without a name. Now this is just a black beetle, but he's got sort of a pointy bum end, if you like, or the back end. He's very pointy and 2 feelers on the front, and he's black. But again, take no notice of all these silvery bits on the front here, because I think that's air bubbles that's trapped inside, air that's trapped inside this beetle. So that's not part of his coloration, but he's just a black beetle. But if you recognise him, he's number 27. Now, I hope I'm not hurrying too much, but I'm trying to hurry because I've got an awful lot more beetles to go, and I want to try and get it in on at least 2 videos. Now this one, fortunately, has got a name, and this is a shield beetle from Malaysia, and he's rather interesting because when you tip him up that way, he looks like a little face. I mean, if you look at things, you find there's faces on them, but this beetle really does look as if he's a man with a funny haircut and a big nose, and he looks like a little face. But I got a name on that, and it's a shield beetle from Asia. Now this one is an American cockroach, so he's North American, and these are real tiresome things. You get these in your house, cockroaches, and people don't like these, so they soon tread on them when they see them. But nobody really, I don't know why, but they got a bad reputation. Nobody likes cockroaches. I don't know why, but that's a cockroach, and in their way, they're very beautiful. And so I don't really mind cockroaches. We don't have a lot of trouble with them in England. We do have cockroaches, but they're not not really a problem, I don't find anyway. Now this one is a licher, L-I-T-C-H-I, licher stink bug, as in smell. Now this one, very interesting little bug. Fortunately, I've got the name of him. Now it looks on there as if you've got a bubble on his back. Now that shows you that it's air trapped inside this little specimen. When they were making it, they got an air bubble in there, which is a bit of a pity, because it spoilt his look a little bit, and it looks like he's carrying something on his back, but in actual fact he isn't. He's just got a little air bubble trap there. But we've got a name on him, so that's fortunate. Now this one's a very handsome, very beautiful beetle, and he really is lovely. And he's got 2 big pincers on the front there, and his body is a sort of a browny, I don't know, tan, I suppose you'd call that, tan colour, and his front is a little bit different. He's got some air in there, so he's looking a bit silvery. But it's a very interesting looking beetle, and if you recognise him, he is number 28. Now we really are firing along with these specimens, but I've still got a lot to go. This is the second to last pile, and we're already up to 17 minutes, so I'm hoping I can do them. Now this one we get in England, it's worldwide, and it's called a water beetle. And he's, I don't know, I would say he's ordinary, but he's no beetle's really ordinary. They're all special in their own way, and that's a water beetle. Now this one is a dung beetle. Now a dung beetle is very interesting. They roll dung along and they find it, and we really need these dung beetles. We don't get them in England. I suppose there are bugs and beetles that live in cow muck and stuff. I've seen some myself. I've never been able to see one close up because they fly away very quickly. So we do have dung beetles, but they don't roll up the balls of dung. They just live inside it. Now this one is a green jewel beetle from East Africa, and a beautiful one this is. Now when you want iridescence, this is your beetle. I mean, look at the iridescence on that. I don't know whether it's showing up on the camera, but this is absolutely beautiful. A really beautiful beetle, and he's quite lovely. He's covered in green, blues, and all sorts of shades. But we've got a name of him, and he's a green jewel beetle. Now this one's a very strange beetle, but unfortunately I've got a name on him. He's a lantern beetle, and he comes from Asia, and he's got a very long snout sticking out the front there. Really long snout on him, and a very nice horn on the front there sticking up. Very strange how the posture of this creature. He's got lovely wings with patination, looks like leaves, and that obviously helps him to hide in the bushes. But a very beautiful beetle that is. Now this is one without a name, and again this one has sort of got a face. He hasn't exactly got a face on him like that other one. I'll turn him up and down, but whichever way you look at this one, he doesn't really have a face on him, but he has got markings on his back. He's got 5 patches, and he's sort of a browny beige colour, and that's the underneath. He's got patterns underneath as well, and he's got a little red sort of nose sticking out the front there. But he's a lovely beetle, but he hasn't got a name, so I'm keen on finding out what his name is. and he's number 29. So for that one. Now this one we got a name, unfortunately. This is a black shield beetle from the Philippines. So they brought these beetles in from all over the world. People have obviously collected them and put them in. And but the coordination between the magazines that they supplied and the beetles weren't very good. Sometimes the beetles you got in the box weren't even featured in the magazine, which was a bit annoying. And obviously you didn't get the names at the same time, which is why the names have been separated. I think I said that. That's a black shield beetle from the Philippines. Now these two haven't got names, so I'm going to have to put labels on them. This is just a black beetle. I mean, you can't say much about this one, other than it's a black beetle, and the size of it is about the size, almost the size of my finger. If you put my finger behind him, you can see how big he is. He's quite a big beetle, but he's all black all over, looks furry. He's got long feelers out the front, a little short nose, but he hasn't got a number or a name yet. But I'm putting him a number 30. So number 30 is that little black beetle. Now this one again with no name. He's a strange little beetle again, but he's got stripes. Looks a bit like a wasp or something, but I think it is a beetle. He's got a little beetly look about him, and he's got orange and black stripes across his body. So if you recognize him, he's number 31. So that's the next pile of beetles. Now fortunately we're down to the last ones, so hopefully my numbers will go far enough. And we're getting up to 21 minutes, so I've got to be hurrying. This one is a ground beetle, and you're found worldwide, and I got a name on him. And again, he's just a black beetle, but they've all got an interest in some way, and it's nice to know about them. So that's a black beetle. And where was it from? That's worldwide. Now this is a common skimmer. S-K-I-M-M-E-R. Skimmer, worldwide. Now, I've never seen one of these, so if they live in England, I don't know, but they aren't, but that's called a skimmer. I think that's how they pronounce it. If I've said it wrong, you'll soon correct me, I'm sure. But that's a very interesting beetle, and so we'll have him on the go. Now, this one is a giant stag beetle from America, Asia, and Europe. So they find these in 3 different places, and he's a huge stag beetle, and that's very interesting. Now the next one is a shield beetle, and this one comes from China, and he's very pretty. I mean, like the Chinese, they're very small and very pretty. I find Chinese people really fascinating. I quite like Chinese people. I think they look really cute. They may not appreciate me thinking they're cute, but anyway, that's what I think about Chinese people. I like the way their eyes, I mean, the slanty eyes, as they call them. I don't think that's a derivation of Chinese people. I think it makes them look really sweet and nice, and I like them. Now this one is an oriental flower beetle from Asia. Now this one is absolutely beautiful, and I'm glad I got the name of him because I can look him up and find out all about him. But he's got this iridescence. Some beetles have this iridescence, which I'd love to know why they're so pretty and why this iridescence has evolved, because the evolution of creatures is very interesting. And this beetle has evolved over the years, over millions of years probably, to have this iridescence. And I don't quite know why they should have that iridescence, what benefit it is to them in their life. Now this one is one without a name. Unfortunately, I think this is the last one without a name. But this is rather an interesting bug. It's really big, but you may recognize it because it's got sort of a, I wouldn't say it's a pattern, but certainly a very strange combination of blotches on its back. They're not exactly spots. I suppose you could call them spots, but some of the spots are double. So it's got these strange blotches, I would call them, on its back. And it's got very long feelers which trail behind. I don't know whether you can see that, but the legs are at the bottom there. And through the legs you can see that it's got very long trailing antennae. Now obviously when it's living, probably the antennae come out the front. So they've been bent back maybe to put it inside this little container. But that's a very interesting bug. And he's number 32. And I'll put that on the front there. And I think that's the last. I think I've used up my pile now. So we've been through an awful lot and we're 24 minutes. So that's worked out really well. Now this one has got the name. It's an Asian stag beetle. And it comes from Southern Asia. Oh no, sorry, Southeast Asia. Sorry, I've read that wrong. My reading, as you know, is not terribly good. It's Southeast Asia, and he's a Asian stag beetle. So that's the final one in my series of beetles. I may get some more beetles. I don't know if I buy some. If I can remember which ones I've got and I don't buy the same beetle twice. Because these beetles are very difficult to remember and lots of them look very similar. And I have seen these beetles on sale in shops and I bought them, but I'd like to get some more butterflies. Now people may not be a bit more iffy about people getting hold of butterflies, because butterflies may be... Now I don't think any of these creatures that I've got are endangered in any way. And insects multiply in their thousands. I mean, nature has made sure that they don't die out, they don't become extinct, because they literally breed in thousands. And so there's thousands of insects, and most of the insects are eaten by other insects, or birds, or mammals, or bats, or, you know, other creatures. So the life cycle of a beetle isn't very long, and I'm sorry about that. So maybe killing one or two to put them in these specimens is not that bad a thing. It's not a big issue. I hope I haven't upset anybody. I don't want to upset people, but I find them interesting, and it's very difficult to study beetles because they fly away. And if you catch one, you can probably kill it anyway. So, you know, if you want to study beetles and you're interested in them and finding out about them, you've got to capture them in some way. So this is, to me, you know, it's on the wither-wather, but it's still interesting. Now, it's time to go, and before I go, you may have noticed in the background on this videos that I've been doing, there's this creature been sitting there. Now, I don't know how many of you recognise what this creature is. Now, I did a video on bones and skeletons and teeth, and I made a video about it. Now, when I was making that video, I wasn't able to find this particular creature because I'd mislaid it. Well, during the time I've been searching, I've discovered it again. Now, this is actually a badger. Would you believe it? Now, this is a badger, and you can understand why they fight with badgers, because they've got their really vicious teeth, and they're very strange creatures. Now, this badger, this particular badger, was roadkill. It had been knocked over on the road, and I gathered up and took off the head, which is a bit gruesome, but I wanted a badger's skull. So the only way to get it was to actually kill a badger. I didn't kill a badger. Somebody on the road killed the badger. But I took the badger to a field study centre for them to examine it, but I kept the head. And I treated it with bleach and goodness knows what, and washed it off and cleaned it. And I've ended up with quite a clean skull with all the teeth. Now, the interesting thing about this particular jaw, when you show jaw bones, and even the jaw bones of human beings, when you become a skeleton, the jaw separates and drops off. And with most animals, the lower jaw separates from the upper jaw. Now, the strange thing about badgers, their jaw is hinged and it doesn't drop off. So usually what I have to do is put an elastic band or something around it to keep the jaw together. Now, with the badger, you don't have to, because it's got a very strange hinge arrangement at the side here for the jaw to actually hinge together. Now, I don't know whether that's unique to badgers, but it does mean that they're not able to move their jaw sideways. So they can't chew very well. So they probably bite and snap and tear at their food. And I think they mainly eat bugs and worms and little creatures like that, I don't know. But they probably swallow them whole. But why they have such vicious teeth when they only eat insects and small rodents, I don't know. But the way the jaw, and if anyone can tell me why this particular creature has evolved to have a jaw that's got a hinge that lifts up and down. But I quite like my badger, and as I made it myself, I'm very proud of it. But I wasn't able to show it before. So like what I do with most things, if I find something that I've missed, I like to catch up with it and put it on camera so that everybody can see it. So that's my little badger, and that I keep him in this little Ferrero box, which is just right for him. He fits beautifully inside this Ferrero Rocher box. They're very useful for keeping specimens in, and my wife likes the chocolates, so she's very pleased when I buy a Ferrero Rochers to get the box, because she gets some chocolates. Well, anyway, this video's gone on long enough. It's almost 30 minutes, so I'll call it a quits now, and I'll say until the next time, and I bring you something hopefully interesting. Don't forget, subscribe and like my video and share it with a friend if you can, and get me out there so that I can get more viewers. I'll be very pleased and very grateful for you for doing that. But anyway, help me out if you can with the names of these beetles. That would be a really good thing. But anyway, that's all from Grandad for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye.